it to me, Star Child. I'll bend these beams with my mind.
Hi everybody, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar. I'm back with another First 10 Thoughts video. I did one back when Ace released 10,000 Volts, so I thought I would do another one now that he released Walkin' on the Moon. And actually it was my student Bobby this week during lessons. He asked me if I saw the video, and I told him, I saw that it was released, but I didn't watch it yet because I want to wait and give it my full attention so that I can make this video for my first 10 thoughts on it. And he's like, okay, but I need to know something. Let me know if you think his head looks a little too big for his body in a couple of the shots in the video. And I feared the worst. I thought maybe Ace FaceTimed himself singing the song and they cropped his head out and put it on somebody else's body. And then I thought, nah, they wouldn't go that far, would they? And I was relieved when I actually watched the video and I realized that wasn't the case. We'll talk about it a little bit more when I go over my 10 first thoughts. So number one, the drum groove is the first thing that I really noticed, because it's not every day that a song has a halftime shuffle in it. Some people call it the Purdy Shuffle. I like to call it the Rosanna Shuffle. Rosanna? I sounded very southern right there. Because when I first started taking drum lessons, it was for that purpose, to learn how to play the Rosanna Shuffle. But in time, I learned how to modify it a little bit in order to play Fool in the Rain by Led Zeppelin. So check it out. Here's that groove. So I thought that the shuffle groove for Ace's new song sounds a lot like Fool in the Rain. I'll play that shuffle now and you tell me if you agree. Different kick pattern, different hi-hat, but overall it kind of feels the same, doesn't it? Number two is I kept noticing a similar drum fill throughout the entire song. So here's what it is. It's something like that. I was just having fun on the drums today, so I thought I would throw that in. But if you listen to the song, you will hear it throughout the whole thing. And I think that's kind of cool on one hand because it gives it like its own signature fill. But the downside of it is it gets a little bit predictable and a little bit monotonous after a while, after like the fifth time. I love the way it's played, but it sounds very triggered to me. And if you listen to the snare, it pops in a certain way that was very familiar to me. Yeah! And it took me all the way back to the very first time I heard Images and Words by Dream Theater. And I remember Mike Portnoy was kind of upset that he had to trigger the drums. I think the producer decided to do that for some reason. And he was kind of irked about it. He didn't like that. Being a drummer, he wanted to hear the natural sound of the drums. So check it out. I think you'll agree that the snare sounds kind of the same as the Ace snare. Number three is the main riff that happens right off the bat. Speaking of Fool in the Rain, it's kind of funny how similar the two songs, in my opinion, sound, at least this part of it. So Fool in the Rain's more like... Keep in mind, I'm tuned down a whole step. By the way, Ace's song is tuned down a whole step, so keep that in mind if you're trying to learn the riffs from it. The Walkin' on the Moon riff has the same type of rhythm to it. Different notes, but it just kind of has that same kind of vibe. That's my best estimation on how to play that with only hearing it a few times, but it's a lot of fun. Once you're tuned down a whole step, a lot of this makes sense. Now, the Ace riff is a little more intricate. There are a couple more things you have to do for it. There's almost like a Stevie Ray Vaughan moment. Or an Eric Clapton type moment right there. I love that. But it's cool how it starts off with a chromatic walk-up with all this dissonance. Number four are the lyrics. Now, I talked about this in the last video, that Ace's lyrics are always kind of similar in a way. Not similar in theme, but just the way he writes has this like childish nature to it. And that's not really a bad thing. There's like an innocence to how he writes. So in this song in particular, if you just read the lyrics straight out, it almost comes off like a poem you would write when you're like a teenager writing to somebody that you're longing for. Here, I'll just read it straight off here. However, girl, you look at it, you know our love is fate. The universe has made its choice. It's decided you're my mate. See what I mean? But seriously, you can go back to the old Kiss albums, look up any Ace tune, read the lyrics, and they kind of have that same vibe. Number 5 is the set of the video. It's kind of funny when you watch it to imagine how much green screening is going on. So it's probably just Ace and those two aliens, right? Sitting in a huge green room. And they have to just play along to the tune. And then later on, I'm sure the producers just take it and run with it on their computers, adding everything from the spaceship to the portal to all that stuff. So the only things that are probably real are Ace, the two aliens, and the guitars. But like I said earlier, I'm just glad it's not Ace at home FaceTiming himself to make the video. Which makes me wonder how economical it really is to make a video these days. Like way back in the old days when videos were so important, you had to get your video on MTV or VH1 in order for it to be a hit. Nowadays, it really seems like you just have to come out with your song and then do a quick video, do most of it in post-production as long as everything else was done on a green screen. And I bet you could save a lot of money that way. And you could take all the money you saved, Ace, and buy another Les Paul. That's what I would recommend. Speaking of budget, number 6, I have to talk about the costumes, because a huge part of this video are the two dancing aliens. And it's funny because what they're wearing looks like something you could buy at like Spirit Halloween store at any time. They have like the bodysuit alien thing happening, almost like a Tool video. And then they have kind of the cheap masks. And I think they were going for like a B-movie type vibe where it's supposed to look kind of cheesy. But what really kills me are the blow-up guitars, because I thought maybe at the set, the producer's like, hey, Ace, you have like a billion guitars. Can each one of these aliens hold one of your guitars? And I could just picture Ace going, no, man, I can't let him hold my guitars. Just give him some inflatable guitars or something. That'll do. And it's not like Ace's costume was much better. I mean, it was cool. It was like a couple spacesuits, but one of them in particular was very interesting because right off the bat, he's wearing this white suit and there are what appear to be space nipples on the front, almost like a cow's udder or something like that, just kind of sticking out in front. Very strange, very interesting choice. Now, I'm a huge fan of like cheesy B horror movies, so none of this stuff bothered me. But I think if they had like an unlimited budget, I bet you Ace would go totally insane and use CGI. Like he would have the coolest looking aliens if he could. I could just picture the alien from like Signs in his video. That would be super creepy, maybe almost too creepy. But for now, we have to kind of live with the Spirit Halloween aliens, and I'm totally fine with that. Number 7 is the gear. And really by gear, all I really mean are all the different Les Pauls he's using in this video. So just like the 10,000 volts video, almost every other shot, he's using a different guitar. And if you watch this one closely, it's kind of funny because there's a lot of weird little errors. I think most of the shots he's not even plugged into anything, so there's not even a cable coming out of his guitar. And then when he plays along to the tune, you could tell there are spots where he's not even playing what you could hear is being played. So that's kind of funny. It's got to be kind of tough to get Ace to play along to his own song correctly enough times to capture it and then to use it in the video. It's probably a really long and tedious day of filming for them when he has to do that. But once again, if you're going to say it's like a B-movie type video, you can blame it on that. So it's kind of fun when you go that route because pretty much anything goes. You could say, oh, we meant to do that because it's a B-movie video. What do you expect? Speaking of a part that doesn't really sync up to what he's playing, we'll talk about number 8, which is the solo. It starts off with a cool pull-off sequence, and Ace does it with his pinky to his index finger, which is really interesting. But then you hear this. But that's not what Ace is doing. If you watch his fingers, he's still doing pull-offs as you hear that other part. It's almost like doing bad lip syncing, where you could tell the words aren't what the lips are doing. But I mean, there's dancing aliens and bad costumes behind him, so I'm not going to let that bother me. What freaks me out, though, is the fact that Ace can do unison bends with his first 2 fingers. That in itself is very alien-like. So instead of doing what I do, which is my pinky and index finger, you could also use your ring finger. This is way more common. If you watch carefully, Ace is using his first and middle finger, which is insane. I'm sure he does that from years of playing Les Pauls on stage, kind of low, where it's really hard to get your hand to wrap around the right way to do unison bends. So he found the easiest way is probably just those first 2 fingers. Number 9 was just a weird thought that came to me when the video was starting to come to the end. It's when those 2 aliens are dancing the whole time, they're wearing those masks, right? And I thought it would be so cool, even though I think one of them is a guy. I'm not really sure, but I know one of them is a girl for sure. When they're dancing, I thought it would be really cool if at the end they pulled off the masks and like a huge head of blonde hair came out and it was like some hot 1980s lady or something. I thought that would be so funny. It'd be like a throwback to some kind of Whitesnake video type concept. All of a sudden there's like 2 Baywatch supermodels in the back. And yes, that probably would have been really hokey, but why not? You know, anything goes at this point. And I think it would have made the video even more memorable. And the last thing I'll talk about, number 10, is the ending. There's like this real candid shot at the end with Ace snoring. And he wakes up, and it's so funny because he's wearing shades as he's sleeping. Of course he would, right? And he's wearing this like leopard print tracksuit. He wears it in the video as well, but it's funny that he's wearing that on the couch as he's sleeping. He also has his guitar laying there, which is really funny because I've done this before when I was practicing for 8 to 10 hours a day. I would literally go to sleep and wake up and I was sleeping next to my guitar, just like I had a girlfriend or something. Those were some lonely, lonely nights. And then he gets to do some dialogue. So it's almost like Ace is acting now. And it's funny because it's a throwback for me to the old Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. If you guys have ever seen that before, it's like the worst acting ever.
Leave it to me, Star Child. I'll bend these beams with my mind.
But just Ace is so like blunt when he delivers his lines. It just seems so corny in a very Ace kind of way. It cracks me up. But there's a part, I don't think they intended this to be, you know, kind of emotional, but for me it was, when he wants to get up off the couch and he reaches out for help. So he's asking his girlfriend or whoever woke him up, help me off this couch, you know? And it's so weird because he was just dreaming that he was, you know, floating in space, you know, walking on the moon, if you will. And all of a sudden he wakes up and he's back on Earth and he needs help getting up off the couch. So that kind of gave me this moment of reflection of how fragile, you know, a lot of our rock legends are, you know, in their older age. So it's kind of sad to know that a lot of them are, you know, coming full circle, and it's really tough to kind of accept that sometimes. And the last thing I want to say is that even though I kind of ripped on this video a little bit, if Ace Frehley was here, I bet he'd be laughing along with me. He'd be like, yeah, that was just so much fun to make. And I'm just happy. Like I said, you know, a lot of our legends are getting older. I'm just happy that he's still making videos, still making music. And now that things are a lot more economical for artists as far as putting out videos, you don't have to like, you know, have a huge record company release it to MTV anymore. Now, you know, you could do it and release it to YouTube. And I'll keep watching them. As long as Ace keeps pumping them out, I'll keep watching them. I'll do a video every once in a while on them. And I'm just having fun watching him release new music. Okay, everyone, thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you at the next video. Bye-bye.